Good evening and welcome to tonight's bedtime story. Today we'll explore the story of Helen of Troy. Find a comfortable position and let yourself relax. Let this story carry you through a peaceful night. Ready? Let's begin. Helen of Troy, known as the face that launched 1,000 ships, symbolizes both the splendor of divine beauty and the heavy weight of her enchanting destiny. Beneath Sparta's starlit sky, wrapped in the gentle scent of jasmine, she wanders through her garden, a haven where dreams merge with reality. Although her beauty is often recognized as a celestial gift, to her it feels more like a dazzling cage, a conflict between being a celebrated jewel and the silent echo of her inner desires. Candlelight dances against the night, casting warm, fragile glows upon her serene face, capturing the essence of wordless hopes and unseen longings. While those around her perceive an ethereal vision, Helen is acutely aware of the invisible bars that surround her, seen by none, yet felt with each soft breeze that brushes her silken gown. Each graceful step she takes proves her role as Sparta's treasure, yet her heart quietly desires paths untouched by destiny's command. Outside her secluded refuge, Sparta hums with the weight of expectations and reverence. Helen senses the societal gaze, a mix of respect and fear, binding her while simultaneously pushing her toward the refuge of her nightly walks. In these moments of peace, she contemplates freedom, dreaming of a melody yet unsung. It is here, in the tranquil harmony of night, that Helen dares to imagine a future determined by her choices, where her own song might rise, free from the dazzling prison of her luminous gift. The night enfolds the palace in a silken darkness, its shadows lengthening across the marble corridors where Menelaus stands, a resolute figure cloaked in the penumbra of anticipation. The torches flicker hesitantly, their golden light dancing on the walls, casting a warm glow that barely penetrates the cool, enveloping night. The air is thick with the mingling scents of jasmine and sea salt, wafting gently through the palace arches, adding an intoxicating layer to the already charged atmosphere. Menelaus's gaze is as steady as the harvest moon hanging low in the sky, a celestial witness to the weight of ambition and destiny mounting on his shoulders. The cool breeze whispers through the olive groves, rustling the leaves, a symphony of nature that plays in stark contrast to the silent turmoil brewing within. His presence hums softly against the lush silence of the night, a beginning of shared solitude yearning for revelation. To the people, Menelaus is not yet the sovereign they envision, but the promise of future power is a rhythm echoing beneath his skin. His stately demeanor masks a heart that beats furiously, each pulse a reminder of his impending role in the sprawling tapestry of fate. He is a man caught between the inertia of history and the mutable sands of destiny, stretching out beyond the horizon like an unbroken sea. And then there is Helen, standing in the softly shadowed alcove, her figure haloed by the moonlight. Her eyes, brilliant pools of introspection, hold depths that even Menelaus cannot fathom, though he wishes ardently to try. To him, she is more than a reflection of beauty. She is an ally, a confidante cloaked beneath layers he yearns to unravel. Her presence is a gentle balm on the jagged edges of power, unclaimed a lighthouse against the gathering dark, though her own path is riddled with shadows of unspoken desires. Within Helen stir emotions as turbulent as the Aegean in a storm. The night, with its echo of distant lyres and the soft murmur of nightingales, only heightens the chaos within her breast. Outwardly, she portrays a serene facade, her movements fluid and graceful, as if her poise alone could ward off the encroaching waves of uncertainty. Yet inside, a tempest brews, turbulent and relentless, a conflict unvoiced, outward peace contrasting an inward storm. Bound by strings of obligation, Helen stands silently within her gilded cage, each golden bar representing the ties of duty that quelch the fires of her heart. Even beauty, it seems, cannot illuminate the true path when shrouded by another's will. Her mind is a labyrinth where yearnings for freedom clash against her stitched fate, and in that internal struggle, she finds a strange solace in Menelaus's understanding gaze, a silent promise of shared burdens, of dreams whispered into the night air. Together, beneath the vast, unending sky, they stand on the precipice of change, threads of their lives interwoven, whispering of possibilities unspoken. The night curls around them, a black velvet cloak that conceals as much as it reveals, a pause before the storm that is yet to break. As the flickering candles reached their ends, their flames danced with a desperate elegance, swaying in rhythm with the cool night breeze that drifted through the open windows. The mingling scents of melted wax and distant jasmine lingered gently in the air, creating an intoxicating perfume that stirred Helen's senses. Above, the celestial tapestry, studded with 1,000 silent witnesses, seemed to breathe deeply, sharing in the night's quiet tumult and gathering its own constellation of secrets. Helen stood still for a moment, her silhouette subtly mirrored in the polished marble floors of her chamber. Each breath seemed heavy, as if inhaling the very weight of her decision. She could almost hear the sighs of history echoing in the vastness around her, each whisper a reminder of the role she played in the inevitable woven tapestry of fate and legacy. Her fingers brushed against the smooth, cold surface of an ancient column, the chill traveling up her arm and igniting a shiver down her spine, a tangible reminder of the monumental expectations that draped about her like an invisible cloak. Her life had been carved with deliberate precision, each detail honed to the sharpness of Spartan discipline that had shaped her from birth. Yet, somewhere beneath the layers of societal norms and marble-hard duty, there lurked a rebellious spirit that ached for liberation. It pulsed within her, fierce and persistent, testing the very foundation of the orderly life she had long inhabited. She could see it now, clear as those stars, her own potential, vivid and unclaimed, aching for expression. In this kaleidoscope of night emotions, amidst the shadows and solitary light, she saw glimpses of a world painted by her own desires, a mosaic unmarred by others' expectations and ambition. No longer would she be merely a piece in a grand game of alliances and ties forged by hands other than her own. She imagined her fingers dipped in bright colors, staining her world, her decisions, painting a future of her choosing, a rebellion against the constraints others had deemed immutable. With a soft, determined exhale, Helen allowed herself to retreat into her chambers, the curtains billowing lazily as if waving farewell to her momentary solitude. She knew rest would be elusive tonight. How could one sleep when on the brink of a transformation so profound it unspooled visions of chaos and freedom alike? The sweet murmurings of potential whispered in her ear like a lover's promise, sweet and dangerous. It was a siren's song calling her towards the unknown, a thrilling seduction that promised a future forged by her own hands. Outside, the Spartan night continued its metamorphosis, stars winking playfully as if to encourage her boldness. The shadows lengthened, pooling in corners where doubt and desire danced in tandem. Her admiration for the familiar now took on a pallor, cold and expectant, an eerie presage of the unbidden chapters yet to unfold. Helen resolved that night. The world she craved was within reach, and this quiet rebellion could one day become the brushstroke that reshaped destiny. As the night deepened, the gentle hum of crickets began to lull her thoughts. Beneath the tranquil sky, her dreams started to weave tales of courage and freedom, the fabric of new beginnings delicately stitching itself into the vast tapestry of her life. In the end, Helen knew that even the smallest of rebellions against the expected could ignite a revolution within, paving the way for a journey yet untold. In the stillness of the Spartan night, an expectant hush enveloped the world, as though it too was aware of the momentous choices soon to be made, choices destined to echo through history. The air, crisp and serene, carried with it the fragrance of olives and cypress, whispers of a day that had gracefully bowed out. Beneath a sprawling canopy of stars, vast and infinite, Helen lay upon a carved wooden couch. Draped in the finest linens, she felt the subtle, inexorable touch of destiny brushing against her very skin. The night sky shimmered with countless watchful stars, celestial stories interwoven within constellations that seemed to mock her restless spirit. A gentle breeze wound its way through the palace's marble columns, carrying an ancient, haunting melody that cradled the sleeping city in its arms. Yet, sleep seemed a distant realm to Helen. Her mind flitted ceaselessly, following the tender traces of a future unwritten and elusive, its pages rustling gently in the embrace of night. Inside, the muted glow of an oil lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced and swirled over the stone walls like ethereal fingers. The familiar surroundings of her chamber, simple yet magnificent, adorned with treasures befitting her status, now felt more like barriers, with the weight of her lineage resting heavily upon her shoulders. In this place where tradition and obligation wove a tight cocoon, Helen longed for air, for light, and for adventure. Her thoughts resembled birds, caged and yearning to soar. Beyond these familiar walls lay a world vast and generous in its promises, where each decision whispered of freedom, and every unexplored path beckoned with fiery passion and irresistible allure. Deep within her stirred a desire, profound and insistent, more rooted than the staunch Spartan law, and more potent than the blood in her veins. A fervent craving for a life beyond the ordinary, one that would defy the mundane and celebrate the extraordinary. In this quiet hour, the gods seemed to play their silent games above, the stars rearranging themselves into endless possibilities. Her sandals lay discarded on the floor, a negligent hint of freedom in their casual abandonment. Helen rose and approached the window, her reflection a spectral outline against the polished bronze. Her eyes, thoughtful pools of dawning twilight, gazed out across the horizon where the first hints of dawn softly caressed the night's edge. It was as if she could almost taste the future, a complex blend of honey's sweetness and bitternesses, bite lying just out of reach. Was it foolhardy to yearn for more? Could she seize her destiny without unraveling the fabric of all she had known? Her eyes fluttered shut while she drew a slow, measured breath, the air fresh with the promise of dawn, her heart pounding a wild, vibrant rhythm within her. With the cautious blush of morning brushing the sky, casting golden light across the Spartan landscape, Helen decided that this dawn would not merely spark dreams anew. It would inspire action, a hesitant, trembling yet determined step toward that uncharted path. She turned her back on the introspective night, fingers trailing against the cool stone, her mind resolute and set upon the promise of what lay beyond, a life she would shape with her own hands. In this moment, Helen transcended the role of a mere historical figure. She became a living, breathing soul on the brink of choice, prepared to challenge fate. As the sun climbed steadily into the sky, igniting both the land and the hopeful heart beating within it, each step forward carried the profound and enduring promise of legends waiting to be crafted. Helen stood at the ship's prow, a lone silhouette against the vast tapestry of sea and sky, a moment frozen between heaven and earth. The fresh salt-laden breeze unfurled her dark tresses, swirling them in languid choreography under the morning's golden light. Helios, the sun god, cast his benevolent gaze upon her, drenching the world in hues of amber and sapphire. The melodious whispers of the sea reached Helen's ears, an ancient lullaby sung by the undulating waves. It was a song of freedom and longing, a symphony composed of maritime scents of brine and kelp mixed with the wild freshness of the open ocean. Each breath she took was a deep draught of liberation, carrying with it the wisdom of countless journeys. Her soul expanded with every gust, embracing the vastness that lay before her, a horizon unbroken and infinite. Yet beneath this peace lay a storm of restlessness, akin to the ceaseless tides beneath her feet. Her heart, once a captive of domesticity in Sparta, now danced to the rhythm of the sea, untethered and wild. This voyage, though fraught with uncertainty, held an allure she could not ignore, a promise of transformation, a narrative ready to be written anew. Each morning, as Helios climbed the sky, Paris, the Prince of Troy, emerged from the ship's depths. His youthful face was kissed by the sun, his eyes, twin pools of promise and adventure. Paris brought with him whispers of a life different from the one she knew, tales spun from dreams rather than declarations. They spoke of a world filled with possibilities, of a destiny shaped by passion rather than duty. Helen found herself entranced not by Paris himself, but by the vision he offered, a life where she was more than just a pawn in great games of politics and power. She recognized in his dreams reflections of her own unspoken desires, a yearning to step beyond the shadow of what had always been expected of her. His whispers were like the sea's promises, intangible yet irresistible, pulling at the core of her being. A mixture of fear and exhilaration coursed through her as she acknowledged these yearnings. The fear of the unknown battled with the joy of potential, creating a delicate balance within her heart. She was on the cusp of a new world, a world rich with its own turmoils and triumphs. As the ship sliced through the blue fabric of the sea, each wave they conquered felt like another boundary surpassed, another piece of her old life left behind. In those quiet moments at the prow, as she felt the ship lean into the wind. Helen understood that this journey was not merely a physical voyage, but a deeper odyssey into her own soul. The laughter of the waves was a balm to her restless spirit, guiding her toward a horizon where freedom beckoned, where she could rewrite not just her tale, but embrace the destiny she truly sought. With every rise and fall, she let herself be carried forward, not just by the thrum of the sea beneath her, but by the fervent beat of her own awakening heart. The ship's voyage was both a literal and metaphorical crossing, a transition from the known into the vast unknown, from the confines of her past into the expansive possibilities of her future. Each day unfurled like an ink-stained scroll, revealing new chapters, small adventures, and the soft illumination of self-discovery. Helen knew the journey would continue to test her, inviting her to explore dimensions of strength and courage she had yet to recognize. But within this awakening was the sweet assurance that she was indeed carving her own path, steering her life towards dreams that mirrored the ocean's boundless horizon. The creak of the ship's hull echoed across the whispering sea, a haunting melody harmonizing with the rhythmic splash of waves against the bow. The salty wind tousled Helen's golden hair, blending with the scent of brine and the fading fragrance of roses, remnants of garlands that had adorned farewells in Sparta's sunlit harbor. As the vessel sliced through the azure expanse, she stood at the prow, her eyes scanning the horizon, where the faint silhouette of Troy began to rise like a mirage, promising both paradise and perdition. The ocean was a vast, undulating mirror reflecting the sky's canvas of shifting hues. Daylight unfurled in layers, the sun spilling gold across the waters, casting a path that shimmered with promise. Yet beneath this radiant facade lay murky depths, mirroring the turmoil within Helen's heart. Each gust of wind seemed to whisper her name, as if the gods themselves were embroidering her fate upon the winds. Asterisk Helen. Asterisk would she become the harbinger of ruin, or the muse of an epic destiny? Below deck, the crew murmured, their voices tinged with tales of ancient paradoxes, of love that builds and destroys in equal measure. Myths breathed life through their stories, echoing with the laughter and tears of those who had sailed these waters before. Helen, lost in their cadence, felt the tug of destiny, a nebulous thread woven through time, drawing her inexorably toward Troy's storied shores. Each word, each pause of breath, seemed to etch itself into her very soul, a prelude to trials looming ever closer. Her mind, a labyrinth of conflicting desires, wrestled constantly with the choices that brought her here. In Sparta, life unfolded in predictable rhythms, secure, yet stifling in its familiarity. Her marriage to Menelaus, while stable, lacked the fiery passion she yearned for, a passion Paris, with his enchanting gaze and silken words, had promised. Yet love, she reminded herself, was a double-edged sword, a flame that could uplift as easily as it could devastate. As the coastline loomed larger, Helen inhaled deeply, filling her lungs with the brisk, salty air that invigorated her spirit. The city of Troy awaited, not merely as a geographic destination, but as the precipice of an inner revolution. The shadow of impending conflict loomed, a dance of diplomacy and warfare set against the backdrop of her choices. Could one woman bear the weight of such monumental consequence? She pondered, unsure but unyielding, ready to confront whatever waited beyond the horizon's edge. The ship's anchor dropped into the cerulean depths with a resounding splash, merging with the flourish of the sea. Troy's towering walls stood sentinel against the sky, foreboding and inviting. As Helen descended the gangway, her sandal-clad feet meeting the ancient soil, a gossamer thread of hope still lingered in the tapestry of her heart. Her journey was not just to a new land, but toward a newfound sense of self, to weave a new fate from the strands of love and legend. In that moment, as sunlight bathed her path, Helen knew her journey had truly begun, each step imbued with both the burden and blessing of love's fierce, unfathomable power. The horizon before her held not just the outlines of a city, but the promise of a story yet unwritten, a narrative of courage, conflict, and the enduring potential for redemption. In stepping onto the shores of Troy, she stepped into a future woven by the choices of today, ready to embrace whatever the fates would spin her way. As the first rays of dawn delicately brushed the ancient stones of Troy, Helen stood amid the softened relics, her figure silhouetted against the dawning sky. The air was crisp and invigorating, carrying with it a mild tang of saline from the distant Aegean Sea, mingled with the faint smokiness of ancient fires long extinguished. Each breath she drew invited these scents into her lungs, grounding her in this storied landscape, where history lay as thick as the morning mist gently dusting her surroundings. The ruins sprawled around her, touched by the gentle hues of sunrise that cast a golden veil over the tumbled stones and ivy-laden walls. Her fingertips, resting lightly on the cool, rough surface of a once mighty column, connected her to the echoes of the past. The silence was profound, not merely an absence of sound, but a presence filled with what once was, yet never to be spoken again. It was within this stillness, amid the shadows of ancient glories, that she sought solace, a balm for her soul. Helen's eyes darted over the silent sentinels of stone and vine, trying to penetrate the layers of time, peeling back the years like an artist, revealing the vibrant canvas hidden beneath. She imagined the grandeur of the city that had thrived here before its fiery obliteration, its bustling streets and soaring buildings now reduced to whispers in the soil. The imaginations of 1,000 lifetimes swirled around her, resurrected in the ghostly dance of the breeze, whispering tales of heroism and heartbreak. Her heart, though long burdened by the weight of the choices made in the throes of passion and conflict, now beat a contemplative rhythm. The events that had once branded her as both hero and harlot to countless tongues left scars not visible to the eye yet etched deeply within her spirit. She was, thereafter, a seeker, her quest not for redemption from the tongues of men, but for reconciliation within herself, an inward journey for peace. Standing as a solitary figure amidst this expanse of historical silence, her thoughts drew inward, unspooling gently. She pondered upon her journey, the tumult of emotions, the loves and losses repeated in cycles as old as time itself. Troy had been the pinnacle of her myth, its legend as intertwined with her fate as Achilles' heel to his mortal strength, and yet she found herself pondering the softer notes of her story. Yet within these ruins, she no longer felt the crushing weight of the stories that the world had woven around her. Instead, there was the beauty of possibility, a nascent understanding that the stories of history bear both the seeds of destruction and of rebirth. Each broken pillar and crumbling arch suggested new pathways, hidden and waiting to be unveiled. She closed her eyes, allowing the gentle warmth of the sun to wash over her face as it ascended into the sky. The whispers of Troy, the murmuring breezes flowing through the ravages of conquest and capitulations, coalesced into a symphony, a reminder that ruin could also be a canvas for renewal. Helen's lips whispered a silent vow to herself, a promise of self-forgiveness, as enduring and fragile as the very ruins that bore witness to her reverie. The past had been prodigious, but it no longer held her captive. She faced a future woven with threads of her own making, her heart aligned with the promise of a new dawn. Helen stood at the precipice of Troy, the city that loomed with the weight of history and legend. The cool morning air clung to her skin, weaving through her hair like whispers from a bygone era. She took a deep breath, tasting the salty tang carried by the breeze from the distant Aegean Sea, mingling with the earthy scent of sun-warmed stones. Here, amidst the ruins, the voices of the past murmured, their echoed legends blending with her thoughts. The sun, a golden disk on the horizon, cast elongated shadows that whispered secrets as they stretched across the remnants of marble columns and crumbled walls. In that growing light, Helen saw more than the skeletal remains of the once mighty city. She saw the tapestry of her own life, threads woven through triumph and torment, love and loss. Each shadow seemed to hold stories of brave warriors and doomed loves, stories that had once held her captive within their folds. She closed her eyes, letting the symphony of Troy's past wash over her. The distant cries of battle had faded into the chorus of chirping insects and the soft rustle of olive trees, yet she could still feel the reverberations in the marrow of her bones. The chaos that had raged through these walls was now muted, a gentle hum that spoke of resolution, an invitation to embrace a future free from the chains of myth. In the silent dialogue with the city, Helen found her voice, a tender, yet resolute note emerging from the cacophony of histories. It was a voice shaped by years of being a whispered name on the lips of bards, a character in plays retelling her story with embellishments she could hardly recognize. But now, she sought to strip away those layers, longing to step into the narrative of her own making, to shape her legend from the remnant truths she claimed as her own. As the first rays of sun gilded the ancient stones, Helen felt a profound sense of serenity begin to dawn within her. It was a tranquility not born of silence, but one fostered by acceptance, a deep self-forgiveness that rolled through her like the waves that kissed the shore below. Here, at the junction of myth and reality, she stood ready to chart her course by the celestial map of her choosing. Her bare feet touched the warm earth with renewed purpose as she stepped forward. The cool, polished stones beneath her felt firm, a tangible reminder of her present, anchoring her to the world while granting her the freedom to roam its expanse. She left behind the whispers of betrayal and the shadows of regret, her heart no longer a vessel for inherited guilt. With each step, Helen moved beyond merely being a pawn in stories spun by others. She embraced her journey, not as a symbol or a legend, but as a woman reclaiming her destiny from the grasp of the tides, walking towards the dawn's gentle promise of a new beginning, a path woven by her own hands, leading her toward a future of her own making. The world around her was alive with possibilities, the ruins whispering the potential of what was yet to come, not just what had been. She could feel the whisper of the breeze as a subtle encouragement, urging her onward and reminding her of the vast possibilities that lay in accepting her own story. The journey ahead was now one navigated by her own choices, unfettered by the conjectures of others.